Matt Painter is nearing another huge commitment in that 2026 class.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Boilermakers here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host. I am Nick Arvin, and we have an exciting episode coming your way today because there is some commitment news coming out of West Lafayette. A big visit happened over the weekend, and we'll be talking that one today. Today's episode is brought to you guys by our friends at FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. So, like I said, huge visit over the weekend at Purdue, especially for that 2026 class, because Sai Nan Juan, he makes his way out to Purdue, to West Lafayette over the weekend. Huge recruit out of the 2026 class, 7 foot tall, coming out of the Maryland area. This guy is a real deal athlete. He's 7 foot. Like I said, he doesn't necessarily have all of the characteristics put together yet. His game still needs to develop, and that's traditionally what you see with these 7-footers. But Huan is taking a great step in the right direction. And when you think about a big 7-foot Chinese center, you think about Chinese Canadian like Zach Edey. That's just kind of where your mind goes to when you think about Purdue, when you think about what Edey was able to turn into under Matt Painter. He was able to turn into a national player of the year type guy. And I think if you're able to pitch that to a guy like Huan, we saw that this last weekend, this visit went really well. He got a lot of recognition. They were at the Southern Illinois game. Painter really got cheered at that one. But from all that we've seen, that visit went really well. And when you have a guy like Edey, we talked about it. That is such a great selling point to a 7-foot guy with Chinese heritage. That is just such an asset for you, for Purdue. And we've seen that's led to Huan being the early favorite to go to Purdue. We've seen early on Luke Ertl commits to Purdue, the number one player in the state of Indiana, commits super early. Jacob Weber commits last week, sharpshooter. And then it looks like the next piece to fall is going to be Huan. And I don't know if it's necessarily a lock yet, but everything that I've seen has made it seem like Huan is a lot to go to Purdue. There have been rumblings all over that he's getting close. He's getting close to picking Purdue. And today we saw a step in that direction because he starts up a new Instagram post. We saw that Instagram has been very prevalent. Jacob Weber, he posts the Boilermakers pictures from his official visit and then follows the whole roster on Instagram. And shortly after, his commitment is announced. And we see some similar kind of characteristics with Huan. He starts up this new Instagram, posts his Purdue official visit pictures, and then he follows Daniel Jacobson. And that's who he follows. He doesn't follow anybody else. He follows some family members, Daniel Jacobson, and then I believe Purdue men's basketball. So that's a sign that he likes Purdue. That's a sign that we should be seeing a commitment soon for this guy. And when you talk about what he is, obviously he hasn't developed all the way. We talk about that, but most 7-footers coming out of high school haven't developed like that because high school coaches, they don't know how to develop these guys. There's so rare that you have a 7-footer come through your program. And it's just difficult for high school coaches to always develop these guys. But we know Matt Painter has been consistent doing this time after time after time. And that's where that selling point comes in so well for Purdue, like a guy like this. And I don't think that he's going to be ready to play immediately. But when you think about you're able to bring a 7-footer into this class to complement the guys that you've already brought in, it's the perfect addition. So a bit of news. He did announce that there will be a visit to Illinois. Huan will go on a visit to Champaign this weekend, actually. So that one is a little bit interesting because for the longest time, Purdue was really the only team linked to this guy. He goes on his visit to Purdue this past weekend. From all we've seen, it goes well. He posts the pictures. There's a lot of excitement, and it looks like there's a commitment brewing soon. But then that visit to Illinois gets announced. But I wouldn't worry about it too much. I don't think that's a sign of, hey, he doesn't like Purdue. I don't think that's a sign of, hey, he's considering Illinois more so. I think he just wants to see off his options, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we'll see that Illinois visit. But from everything that I've seen so far, Huan is on the fast track to becoming a Purdue Boilermaker. We'll talk in our next segment how much that means for the 2026 class, why that 2026 class is going to be so pivotal for this program. But just continuing, talking about what Huan is. Obviously, 7 foot tall, 225, so not the hugest frame, but he has the ability to develop into a really great athlete. He has the ability to move. That's something that we're going to see. When you look at these bigs, when you look at bigs coming out of high school, coming out of prep school, that's what you want to see. You want to see how these guys are moving, and Huan has it. He hasn't put his game together all the way yet, but he has the ability to be a top rim protector. He has the ability to move down the floor. He has the ability to really be a traditional big, something that we haven't seen in a while, but something that we did see with Zach Edey. I don't mean to keep making that comparison. I don't think that Huan necessarily has the offensive capabilities that Zach Edey had at that time, but it's hard not to see similarities just from the selling point of Chinese heritage, 7-foot guy, and it's just such a perfect fit for Purdue. And I think that Huan is going to be a Boilermaker. I know that these next couple weeks may be a little bit tricky with that visit to Illinois. It may be a little bit more intense, but that's what we saw with Jacob Weber. We saw that just this past week with Jacob Weber in Tennessee. There was the same situation where Weber goes to Purdue. Weber really likes Purdue. He gets on Instagram, posts, everybody kind of speculates Purdue is the fit for this guy just because of how well that Weber fits into Painter's system, how well that Huan will fit into Painter's system. And then Tennessee really makes a late push. They get in, host him on a visit, and then eventually Weber picks Purdue. Just like I suspect that even if Huan does end up going on that visit to Illinois, he will pick Purdue because what Purdue is able to offer, what Matt Painter is able to offer as a developer, that is what you want as a recruit. And this is a guy that can plug in for several years for you. You think about Daniel Jacobson, a guy that Huan is very good friends with. Daniel Jacobson will be here. He'll be continuing to develop after Oscar Clough leaves this year. And then you have the ability to develop a guy like Huan, another 7-footer, under a guy like Daniel Jacobson. And it's hard not to see why this guy will be such an asset. And it just rounds out that 2026 class. Jacob Weber, Luke Ertl. You have a Luke Ertl who is a great point guard. Jacob Weber, who is a spot-up shooter. There's still a chance that you get a strong power forward, whether that be a Quinn Costello or a Williams who's visiting this next weekend. But if you can go ahead and cement that guy at the center spot, you're going to have a bigger recruiting class than we saw this last year where you just bring in 2 guys. But if you get Huan, you get a 7-footer that can develop in your system, a 7-footer that's going to be here to stay. And it's something that is so exciting. So for Purdue fans, keep a lookout on this guy. Chinese heritage, 7-foot big. Huan is the real deal. He's number 71 nationally. We just got the 24/7 Sports. They just updated the rankings. So 71 nationally, the number 8 center prospect in the nation. 4-star guy, 0.97 on 24/7 composite. And like I said, the only 2 teams in it right now, Purdue is the heavy favorite for this guy. We saw the Instagram post. We saw that this guy is psyched to potentially be a Boilermaker, but Illinois has been making a late push for this guy. So it's something to look out for. We'll continue to have the updates, but this guy is going to be so huge for what Purdue can do, for what this 2026 class is shaping up to be. So I want to know, what's your opinion on this guy? Do you think that Sai Nan Juan will be a good addition to this 2026 recruit class? Because I really think that this is the guy to kind of finish out this class and then maybe add one more guy, whether that's a Quinn Costello, whether that's a Cameron Williams. We'll talk about why this class is so very important, what this class means for the future of Purdue, why this class is going to be one of the most important recruiting classes that Purdue has had today. We'll talk about that here next. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This great ginger and lime flavored shot brings back the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost, perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. What's the wildest shot you've ever made? Was it a total fluke? Maybe a well-calculated miracle? Well, I'm sure you needed a boost, and with 5-hour energy, you can get that boost. Whether you're on the course, whether you're out, it doesn't really matter. Golf is all about the good times with good people and good flavors. The grape ginger lime flavor of 5-hour energy transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5HEWin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase is necessary, and the only term that excludes the Masters tournament. Check out 5-Hour Energy. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the apps. I love using FanDuel because I can bet any way that I want to, whether I want to hop in live on the action, whether I want to same-game parlay my future bets up. It doesn't really matter because FanDuel can let me bet however I want to bet. And you can do that as well. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. In our last segment, we talked about a guy who may be committing soon, a guy who had a great visit this past weekend to Purdue, and someone that Matt Painter's trying to secure in Sai Nan Juan. That's a big center. That is a 7-foot guy, and that size doesn't lie. He's huge. That would be a huge get for Purdue. That would be a huge get for Matt Painter. But even if somehow Illinois steals him at the last minute, there are still options. And even though there are options, I just want to convey the fact that 2026 is going to be, if not the most important recruiting class in the history of Purdue, definitely during Matt Painter's tenure, maybe of all time. Because when you think about where this team is, it's like we're kind of at the peak. You have a guy in Braden Smith. You have a guy in Fletcher Lawyer. You have a guy in Trey Coffman-Rain. And they're not going to be here next year. Neither is Oscar Clough, who's the starting center this year. You're going to need to fill up roster spots. We know those guys have one last chance to get that national championship. But the thing is, Purdue's not going to be bad next year. You're going to bring in enough guys to be able to be competitive. And that's why this 2026 class is going to be so important. It's the start of a new era of college basketball at Purdue. It's the start of just a new scenery for what this team is going to be going into the future. When you think about what Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer have been out of that backcourt, it's been one of the best backcourts in the nation on a consistent basis. And we've seen with commits Luke Earl and Jacob Weber, you have the opportunity to stretch that out 5 more years. You have the opportunity to bring those guys in and develop them just the way that Braden Smith and just the way that Fletcher Lawyer were developed. And I don't want to compare those two guys, but it's hard not to see similarities. When you think about what Matt Painter wants to do, when you think about just kind of who these guys are and their skill sets, the way that they play the game, the comparisons just kind of make themselves, because these two guys are the perfect transition guys for this new era of Purdue basketball that we're going to see after this year, that this big recruiting class is going to have to bring in. And it's not just those guys, though. You have the opportunity to really make a splash. Purdue is connected to a ton of guys in this class. We know that Huan is probably the favorite to become a Boilermaker next. We know that he is really loving the black and gold for Purdue, and I would love to see him, but there are even more guys that you really have an opportunity to get. So one guy that I do want to go over, he announced that he's going to be making his visit next weekend. It's the number 4 recruit in the 2026 class. He would immediately be the highest recruit that Purdue has ever brought in the history. This is a guy that, honestly, I'm not too confident that Purdue is going to be able to snag this guy, just because there are so many schools going after him, whether that be North Carolina, Kentucky, et cetera, et cetera. Purdue has a lot of competition for this guy, but that guy is Cameron Williams, big power forward in that 2026 class. He is going to be the future of whatever program he decides to commit to. If Purdue was somehow able to snag that guy, it would be unprecedented. That guy would change. That's a program changing guy. Obviously, he's probably a one and done, so we won't see the traditional develop system that we've seen under Matt Painter. But if you're somehow able to snag that guy, absolute program changer alongside Huan, who I'm expecting to commit soon, alongside Weber, alongside Ertl. Cameron Williams is a guy to look out for, very competitive in his recruiting kind of battle in his recruiting stage right now. But Purdue does have him on a visit next weekend against USC. So that's one to look out for. Remember the name Cameron Williams. We talked about Huan in our previous segment. Let's talk about a guy who I have been a huge fan of. He announces his final six: Minnesota, North Carolina, Michigan, Michigan State, Texas, and Purdue. Purdue hosts him on an official visit. He seems to like it. 6'11", stretch 4, can shoot the 3, tall as can be. That guy is Quinn Costello out of the Boston, Massachusetts area. This is another guy that would be a huge get for Purdue. And I don't know. I believe that Purdue, if they aren't able to get Cameron Williams, I think they may be able to get a guy in Quinn Costello who's really turned some heads. He's become a top 30 recruit in the nation. He's really climbed up those recruiting rankings. They're constantly being adjusted around this time of year. But Quinn Costello is another name to keep your eye on. And that just kind of goes into the fact that this is going to be one of, if not the biggest recruiting classes that Purdue has ever put together in terms of talent, in terms of rank, and then in terms of just importance, the importance that this recruiting class is going to have for the status of this program. We've seen a lot of these college schools, they've elected to go a different route in terms of recruiting. It's such a unprecedented time in college basketball where a lot of guys are, and we've seen programs like Rick Pitino and St. John's, they've gone, hey, we're just going to focus on the transfer portal. It's so tough to bring in these recruits. And when you get a high recruit, just the chance of them going one and done, other programs have been building off kind of just the transfer portal. And Matt Painter has kind of had a hybrid approach. We've seen that he brought in a guy in Oscar Clough in the portal this year, but he also brought in two great additions in Antoine West and Omer Meyer. So going forward, I think that that's somewhere where Matt Painter can really stake his claim. If he's able to kind of produce from both sides of the coin, bring in transfers, and then still improve, because this is the best that we've ever seen Matt Painter as a high school recruiter. We've never seen him be able to get the guys consistently as early as he has. And that's not a knock against Matt Painter. It's just the changes in college basketball, how he's developed. And I think we had Craig Bowers on here, and he had a very interesting comment about how Matt Painter doesn't get the respect he deserves as a talent maintainer, maintaining guys on your roster year after year. That's something that Matt Painter has shined on that hasn't really gotten a whole lot of notoriety because people don't care about guys that stay. They care about guys that jump out or guys that come in. That's just kind of the nature of people, of fans, of how the media is ran. But Matt Painter has shined that way, but he has kind of gone into his prime as a recruiter, especially from a high school standpoint. When you think about other programs that haven't been recruiting high school kids, Matt Painter has come in and he's really stuck his claim. He has a top class in 2026 already, with Huan likely committing soon, and with guys like Quinn Costello, guys like Cameron Williams, who is a long shot, I will say it, but there is a chance. 2026 is going to be the biggest recruiting class to date for Purdue. This is going to be one of the bigger classes when we look ahead a couple years and think about the overall impact that this class will have on Purdue. It'll have on Purdue basketball and the future of this program. This class is so important. So stay tuned. What we're covering here, we're going to cover this class a lot because we just got started. Two huge recruits that committed already. We got one coming up soon, and then more names. Constant. It's going to be a busy season for Purdue basketball. We're in the off season. College basketball starts up in just over a month, but a lot to be excited for on the recruiting trail. I'm so excited. Purdue is doing great things so far. We'll have all the updates, but here in this next segment, I want to shift it off to this big game happening Saturday at Ross-Tate. Purdue opens up with our friends at FanDuel. They open up as 21-point underdogs. We'll talk about it. Is that deserved? How big of a hill will Purdue have to climb to compete in that one? We'll talk that here next. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually, getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden thieves, prices jumping at the checkout. That's why I use our friends at Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best price with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Say, hey, you want to make it out to Rossay? The Boilermakers are on fire 2-0. You can make it out with our friends at Gametime. You can even make it out for cheap to Mackey. This winter, going to be a bunch of big games happening there. You can hop on that if you get with our friends at Gametime. Take that guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchases. Of course, terms apply, but that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. So the AP poll drops today, and USC, they should be ranked. I'm not going to lie. I am so not appalled, but I'm surprised that USC isn't ranked because they've had some crazy games the past 2 weeks, albeit not against the highest quality opponents. But Jayden Maiava, their quarterback over there, puts up 400 yards against Georgia Southern, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. That offense is looking dangerous. And we circled this game. We circled USC versus Purdue. It's going to be in a primetime slot, 3:30 Eastern on CBS. It's going to be a huge game at Rossay. I expect Rossay to be packed, but Purdue does have a mountain to climb. I think that there is a realm where Purdue is able to compete against this USC Trojan team. I think that there is a realm where they are able to upset USC. I don't think that that's the likeliest scenario. But Purdue opens up today. They're 21.5-point underdog. So huge spread, huge line, and USC is the heavy favorite. They're projected to win by 3 touchdowns. And I honestly, I don't know, because Purdue has looked really good. They didn't look great the first couple drives against SIU, but overall that offense has been clicking. The defense showed a lot of resilience, and this is a team that I think has the opportunity to stay competitive in this football game, but they're going to have to do just that. They have to stay competitive. You can't allow USC to come out firing. You can't allow them to get big plays because we know what Jayden Maiava is capable of doing. We know what Mekhi Lemon is capable of doing. That offense is absolutely dangerous. And when you allow them to get on the field, when you allow their offense to cook, when you allow their offense to throw big plays, get on the board first, it's a recipe for disaster. So the only way that Purdue is going to be able to upset USC, to be able to stay competitive in that game, to cover that spread, is going to be if they don't allow USC to get off to an early start. You can't let that offense start firing. That's just kind of the nature of it. Once that happens, it's kind of wraps for you. And I don't think that's a Purdue thing. I think that's in any team in the Big Ten. USC is extremely underrated this year. That offense is going to be one of the best in the nation. And we've seen that Lincoln Riley has consistently churned out some of the best offenses that the nation has to offer. And he's just back right at it again this year. And this is one of his best offenses, which is absolutely insane because he's had 3 Heisman winners over his tenure as a head coach. But for USC, the only thing that they have been lacking in is that run defense. And that's going to be where Purdue has to beat them. That's going to be the way that Purdue is going to overcome that 21-point line. They have to assert themselves on the ground. And we saw that Purdue really had that as a priority against Southern Illinois. Devin Mockabee went for over 120 yards. He was cooking in that one. 2 touchdowns. Barry Odom, he really wanted to assert a run offense early because going into week 3, you're going to have to do that. As much as that big hitter, you hope that's there, as much as you hope that Ryan Brown can find success in that one, it's going to have to happen on the ground because what happens early on when those safeties don't bite, it creates a one-dimensional offense for you. If you're not able to run the ball, if you have to pass the ball to move past the sticks, it creates a one-dimensional offense. And there's no way that Purdue is going to be able to win. The only way that Purdue can win is if they win the turnover battle and they win the time of possession. And that comes down to running the ball. If you run the ball, if you are able to keep USC's offense off of the field, if you're able to sustain these long drives off the legs of Devin Mockabee, you may be able to find success against this team because there are question marks with the front of USC. That team has consistently had to rotate in different guys in the front seven to find consistency there because they haven't been the best. And that team, they've seen some penalty struggles last week. So that's another place where Purdue has to exploit. You have to play disciplined football. You can't turn the ball over. We saw Ryan Brown kind of had a bad throw. It didn't end up biting him too bad against SIU. Throws that one into triple coverage for an interception. You can't do that against USC. Jayden Maiava is yet to throw an interception. He's been amazing this year. So turnovers are going to be few and far between for USC. That just means that Purdue has to be even more disciplined, not turn the ball over, and make the high IQ plays. On the penalties, I think that you can beat them. Purdue has done a great job limiting the penalties. We only had like 3 week one, a few week two. That's been a spot where Purdue hasn't really had any issues. They've been a disciplined football team, which is honestly insanely surprising because you bring in over 70 new guys to this team. Everybody's trying to adjust to being together. That offensive line, completely new. It's just what they've been able to do from a disciplined side of things has been very impressive. And that has to continue against USC, and that has to be even more so. You have to out-discipline the Trojans. That's something that I think that that Purdue is able to do, but we'll be able to see if they can do it on a consistent enough basis to find success against USC. And then just to reiterate my point, you have to win the time of possession. That's going to be the most important thing. If you're not able to win the time of possession, you're going to lose. That's just what it comes down to. The more that USC's offense is on the field, the higher chance it is that you get beat, because that's just how good USC's offense is. USC has more talent on the offensive side of the ball than Purdue's defense does. They're going to be better. They're going to be the better unit. But if you're able to stay disciplined, win the penalty battle, win the turnover battle, and keep your offense on the field, there's a chance. You have to play the game for a reason. You're a 21-point underdog, and everybody's doubting you. But Purdue has everything to gain from this game, and USC has everything to lose. All the pressure is on USC in this one. Purdue doesn't have the expectations that USC does. Purdue isn't expected to win this game by anybody. So if you go in, if you stay competitive, and if you somehow pull that upset at Ross-Ade, that's an iconic moment for the status of this program, where this program was last year, where they would potentially be if they could somehow pull off this huge upset. It would mean everything for Purdue, and they have nothing to lose. There's no impact if you lose this game. It's just another week. It was the expectation. But for USC, if they lose Saturday at Ross-Ade, the walls come falling down. People will be calling for Lincoln Riley's job. USC fans will be in shambles. It's the perfect opportunity for Purdue to strike. It's the perfect opportunity for USC. And I don't think that the spread necessarily reflects every impact that is going to be had on this game. We've seen that Purdue covered week one. They slightly missed the cover week two. I think that Purdue is going to cover against USC. And I think that if they play the perfect football game, if they're able to maintain a win in the time of possession, they're able to win the penalty battle, they're able to win that turnover battle, there is a chance that Purdue can upset USC and get one of the biggest wins in program history Saturday at Ross-Ade. That's going to be a huge game. That one is going to be so vital to what Purdue does the rest of this year. If Purdue is able to upset USC, the possibilities are endless for where this team could potentially go this year. So a ton to be excited about for Purdue fans, a ton to be excited about for Barry Odom's boys who travel down back to Ross-Ade that take on the traveling Trojans, making their way down to West Lafayette. It's going to be a fun one. We'll have some coverage with our guy, Mark Colkin, Friday. That one's going to be exciting, talking with Locked On USC about whether Purdue can potentially pull the upset. So exciting. We have a lot of exciting things going on at Locked On, just to be honest. And it's another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12, he leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star, Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Thank you guys for joining me. Once again, taking your time out of your day to watch me on Locked On Boilermakers. We're always providing daily content for you guys. And as always, boiler up, hammer down.